Hi everyone and welcome along. We are painting the letter U today, and this flower is called an Ursinia. It's a new one for me and I think it's absolutely gorgeous, so grab your paints and let's get started. So have you heard of the Ursinia flower? I certainly hadn't before I was researching for this alphabet, but it's a lovely one, big fan. So I think we'll get let's get a high up one. Just got to check my Q, yeah, the letter Q is in there, so maybe not. We'll go for width instead because we've got lots of width. And that'll be nice. It'll be a nice one to do. So we'll do some little ovals. Let's have a little U for flower right on its side, and we'll have a slightly more open one here, and then we can have a few leaves coming out as well. Lovely. Okay, so Ursinia, you get them in a sort of yellow and orange tones, but they've got this really lovely distinct kind of a halo around the edge of the petals. We'll get into it and you'll see what I mean. So I've got 2/10 brush and a bit of quite dilute permanent orange. I want to make sure I'm not too similar to my tulips, and let's just roll that out. Had my paintbrush in my mouth for a second there. Right, let's start with some nice slender petals, all anchoring themselves into that central point, and this one's coming in from behind, so it'll just be behind. And then these petals at the front are going to be foreshortened. So you see they're much shorter, the ones sticking out at the front, so we can't really see them so much, and that gives you the sense of this flower kind of looking out at you a little bit. Now for the ones fully on the side, it's just going to be like a fan of petals. And then we've got a slightly sort of angled flower again. So we can sort of fan it out. Ooh, fluff. From the side, and then just shorten these petals in the front. Okay, we're going to let that dry and then we'll do a little bit more detail on those petals. So that layer of petals is dried, and what we're going to do now is we're going to glaze another layer of petals over the top, sort of in the gaps, because it's quite a full petaled flower. But I'm also going to get some pyrrole orange ready because we're going to paint in the sort of glow around, which comes around the centre of the flower. So let's first get a little bit more colour in there. Okay. So sometimes when you're glazing, you just feel like you're making a mess and you're just painting over the top of something you'd already done quite nicely, and you're like, what is the point of this? Well, these things dry and they crisp up and they look totally gorgeous, and that's why we're doing it. So I'm just looking for the gaps here or there, and then I'm just going to take that pyrrole orange and dab it very lightly just around the centre there. So I'll do it on this one. So I'm just in the gaps. And then Pyrrole orange. Lovely. Now it's not so obvious on the where you see the underside of the petals, but we'll still put in a few more petals. Okay, and we're going to let that dry. So they're looking really lovely as they crisp up, and now I've just got a sap green here, and I've got my 4/10 brush, and I'm going to start to paint in the stems and the leaves. It's a slender and quite sort of wobbly stem. When I say wobbly, I mean more that because it's long and thin, it's got that kind of similarity to a poppy where it can sort of have a few quirky little curves and bends, looking for the sun properly. So here I'm going to do a little bud. And now I'm going to start adding in some rather nice slender leaves. And again, have some fun with the twists and turns. The stems tend to sort of, once they've got the flower on, they sort of tend to shoot off and not have a huge amount of leaves sort of coming far up, but where they're still growing and they're still buds, you do get quite a few leaves. And then we have the little cup of sepals. It's very similar to a daisy in that sense that you just get this sort of neat little cup on the back. And then we're going to go back to our flowers, and I'm going to take some moon glow. And we get this amazing dark halo around the centre. So this is on the petals. And finally, we're going to get some Payne's Grey. Let's get it on there. And some burnt sienna. Haven't used burnt sienna in a little while, so it's a little bit solid. There we go. And we're going to fill in the centre of our flower just with a little sort of domed seed head. So I like to get a really concentrated version of these colours as well. So it's important to try and differentiate between the moon glow on the petals and that centre. Can be a bit challenging, but not impossible. You get lots of different varieties of Ursinias, and there are some with sort of yellowy centres, which might be a good look. And I'm just taking some deep sap green and just adding a few little low lights to the green stems here. And I might just take a little bit of permanent orange. Just to give these a little bit of extra definition. I think that helps a little bit. Lovely. Okay, so I'm going to paint this one in turquoise. And there we have our Ursinia all finished. I think that's such a nice colour combination with the turquoise and the orange. Sort of playing around with complementary colours there, sort of just about. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'm just so thrilled with how this is unfolding. I hope you are too. We've not got many letters left. So I will see you next time for the letter V.